to Pregnancy and Preparation. So I haven't seen you for about 3 years. We met at a midwifery talk that I did, and you said something very interesting to me the other night when I met you again. Do you want to just tell the people what you said?
Well, I said to you, I don't know if you remember me, but you got me pregnant. Which didn't come out quite right.
Hope your husband's not listening to this. So do you want to just explain a little?
Well, I had been trying, we've been trying for children for about 10 years. We'd had 5 cycles of IVF. And I came to see you for an unrelated thing. I came to see you as an osteopath because I'd injured my shoulder, and we got talking and you said about pregnancy and preparation and preparing the soil, and I thought, that sounds really interesting. Because the thing that always puzzled me was that I felt was really unfair was that I've always been really healthy and I've always looked after myself reasonably well, I thought, and it just seemed just unfair. But I thought, well, maybe I need to approach this from a different way, and so I went to the talk, and it certainly highlighted for me a couple of the things that I thought maybe there are some areas of my life I need to think about changing on, and I began to do a couple of the things. You talked about lots of things. In terms of, I remember the name of the talk, which was Preparing the Soil, which was an important metaphor for me.
Sometimes you think, but he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, I was with him for half an hour and he didn't do anything, because in this life we all want quick fixes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd heard about Craig from a colleague of mine, and actually I didn't go and see him for a year because it all sounded a bit wacky. But I eventually went to see him about 4 years ago with a bad back. And I went to see him, and he told me it had nothing to do with my back or my muscles, it was actually my stomach.
Right.
And so I started to look at being healthy in a much bigger scale, because before I'd kind of always looked at health as being slim or fit,
right,
as opposed to actually thinking about what's going on the inside. So yeah, that's where it all began, really.
Right. So what is Pregnancy and Preparation all about?
Pregnancy and Preparation started as a sort of embryo about 8 years ago after a guy came to me with migraines, and when I asked him how his migraines affected him, I was expecting an answer like, I get pain in my head or my vision's affected, and he said, well, yes, I do shout at my wife and I get niggly with my 2 boys. And I was like, wow, that's not what I was really after, but I can see how this problem or dis-ease that you're having in your body is having quite an impact. And for some reason I had this vision of these ripples coming out from this guy. For example, going to his wife and 2 boys, and then what happens when she goes to work and affects the people at her work because she's in a bad mood from it, etc.
Okay.
With 2 boys,
Well,
etc.
could you just tell me about, you know, some of the journey that you've been on, because you've had twins, so this is going to be an interesting story. So can you just tell me about the start of your journey when you kind of got into understanding what Craig's about and how that came about?
I started to realise, wow, this is, you know, quite a huge impact, and if we can swap this ripple of disease around and make it into a ripple of health, what impact can we make on society?
It was really around thinking, well, am I really preparing my body as well as I can for the upcoming, and I think I was going to go through, we were going through egg adoption, and I was going to go through another cycle, my last go. So I thought, well, I need to think about preparing the soil.
I started to just go back into my books around physiology and how the body worked, and starting to look at the emotional side, the nutritional side, and the structural side of the body, and how that implicates, you know, dis-ease, etc.
In my effort to stay healthy and not get fat, I was actually thinking about, you know, what was I putting into my body really that may not have been the best. So that I remember that was one of the major lifestyle things that impacted both of us.
Also, Craig has other sort of strings to his bow in terms of he's an acupuncturist and a naturopath, so he knows about nutrition.
Yeah.
And for me, it's that holistic approach. So it's not just going to be cranial osteopathy. It's not just going to be dealing, you know, with the alignment of the skeleton and everything else. It's sort of there's more to it. That's what I find most helpful.
Other things. So it's an education process, isn't it?
Yeah, and also what Craig's good at is supporting the mother,
Right.
because babies do feed off us, particularly if you're breastfeeding. They're obviously feeding from you, but also emotionally, and so that's how I kind of carried on with Craig. Is that he did a lot of stuff with my eldest son initially, but
You
then
know, over the years I started meeting some really great people. You know, there's Janie Holiday from Fit for a Princess, Patrick Hauser from Fathers to Be, his partner Binny Danst, who's got ecstatic birth. One of my inspirations is actually Christine Grabowska. She's a midwife and she teaches at Thames Valley University. And I can honestly say I've never met a midwife that's got more information. She's just phenomenal. Mariana Vanska, an antenatal teacher who's so passionate about what she does with these people. And these people are out there making a real difference to the world. And what I wanted to do was just bring them all together and start to create some value for these people, these mums and dads to be's, because I realise it's not just about the mum, and we tend to focus a lot on the mum. What about the dads? You know, the stuff Patrick Hauser's doing with dads, just absolutely phenomenal. So what if I could be the enzyme, if you like, or you know, start to get these people together and bring all the resources in some sort of form. I'm doing something with somebody from UNICEF, a woman called Anne Strong, and we're doing breastfeeding. It's not rocket science, and we're trying to just bring it back to what life's about, because pregnancy is something we've been doing for many years. It's not a new science, and we try to make everything fancy every year. You know, technology goes on, and so we have to keep up with technology, but actually being a human is a very simple principle-based phenomenon, and if we can get back to helping people understand their body a little better. You know.
So what are some of the biggest things you could take away and recommend for other people that are in a situation that are just about to have a baby, and you know, they may be very fearful at this moment?
Well, for me, it's having support, whether it's your partner or I've got an older sister who I spoke to a lot.
Right, and I started to inquire into what it would take with my people to actually create a ripple of health instead of having this ripple of disease. Because I thought at first, as a practitioner, I was just dealing excuse me, with this person on the couch, and then I realised there was a far bigger social implication here.